This is what our onboarding screen looks like. We have this design here, we have text, we have these buttons down here, and we can be able to scroll. So let's visit our app and try to replicate the same result. In our scaffold, we need to replace the center widget with a stack widget. So our stack returns children property, and our first child is going to be PageView. PageView returns children. We're using PageView because we need to scroll through the widgets that we are going to put in children. In our children, we are going to put the widgets of our PageView. In this instance, we have 3 pages. So we have page 1, page 2, and we have page 3. So let's take a look at page 1. So in page 1, we just retain a container. We give it width, height, and we give it a color. We're going to do the same for the other 2 widgets. So let's just copy this code from here. Let's change the color. Let's go to page 3. Let's do the same. Let's change the color. So now we can be able to scroll through our widgets. These are the 3 widgets that we have. So let's work on our page 1 first, and then we go on to the next page. Let's open page 1. So in our page 1, we have a container. It has width, it has height, it has a color. So the color of the first widget is going to be dark purple. Our container returns a child, and the child that we're going to use is a column. In our column, we need children because we need to put widgets on top of each other. Our first child of our column is going to be a height spacer. So let's take a look at this height spacer and see what it looks like. It has nothing. So in here, our height spacer is supposed to have a size box. And this size box requires height, and we're going to give it a name of size. And we need to utilize our screen utils. So size.h. We need to create this size variable here. So we come on top. It's going to be a double. So final double size. And we need to import our screen utils. We are done with our height spacer. We need to pass the size. And the size is going to be 70. Our next widget is image.assets. So we are going to utilize the image that we have in our assets folder. Here it requires a string. We need to go to the images folder, and here we need page1.png. That's our design. So let's add cons here. Right below the image, we need another height spacer. So let's utilize our height spacer, and we're going to give it a size of 40. In here, we need another column. Column has the property children. Our first child is going to be a reusable text widget, and our text is going to be find your dream job. Let's give it a style. So we are going to utilize our text style object with the name app style. Let's give it a size of 30, and it's going to be of color K-light. Our font weight is going to be W500. Let's add a little bit of space between this widget and the next widget. We're going to give it a height of 10. So our next widget is going to be a text widget also, but we are not going to reuse the reusable widget. So here we need our text and we need our style. Let's utilize the app style. It's going to have a size of 14, and the color is going to be white. So let's utilize the K-light, and our font weight is going to be normal. Let's put our text down here. So that's what our text looks like. We need to align this text to the center. So let's use text align. So now it's in the center. Let's wrap it around a padding. And let's use the symmetric. Here we need to manipulate the horizontal side. And let's give it a padding of 30. And we need to utilize our screen utils property. So we need to put .w here, and we need to remove the const. So we are done creating our first page. Next, let's move on to page 2. We have the container with the same properties as our last container. So here, we need to change the color to K dark blue. And we need to utilize the child property. So our child is going to be a column, and our column has the children property. In our children, we are going to utilize the height spacer, and let's give it a size of 65. We need a little bit of space from the beginning of the bezel to where our design is going to start. After our spacer, we need a padding. Let's give it a padding of 8. And let's utilize our screen util. And in here, we are going to utilize our child property. And our child is going to be an image. We're going to utilize images from our assets, images.assets. Let's add a comma here. So let's write our path to our image. So all the images are provided in the assets folder, so you can follow along. So our next image is going to be images page 2, and it's a PNG. Let's scroll and see. That's our next design. So after the padding, we need to add a little bit of space. So we're going to use our height spacer, and let's give it a size of 20. And we need another column so that we can put our text. Let's utilize the children property. Okay, our column, we have to utilize main axis alignment, and it has to be main axis alignment dot center. And our first child is going to be a text. Let's write the string. We need to have this string in 2 lines, so we are going to use the /n property. So it returns 2 lines. Let's add style to it. We are going to utilize our app style. Let's give it a size of 30, and let's give it a color. And our color is going to be K-Light. Our font weight is going to be W500. So we have our text in 2 lines. Let's add alignment. We need to place it in the center. Let's add a little bit of height between this widget and the next widget. We're going to give it a space of 10. And our next widget is going to be a padding widget. Let's give it a value of 8.edge. Let's utilize the child property. So our child is going to be a text also. We need our string and we need our style. The size is going to be 14. Here we're going to use K-Light Gray. And the font weight is going to be normal. Let's copy the text from our page 1. Let's add text align. So we are done creating page 2. In page 2, let's change this color to K-Light from K-Light Gray. Let's just give it K-Light so that it will be visible. So now let's move on to page 3. Let's change the color here to K-Light. And let's utilize our child property. So first we're going to have a column. In our column, we need to utilize the children property. So our first child is going to be an image, and we are going to pull this image from our assets folder. So let's provide the path. Let's scroll and see what our page looks like. Okay, so this is our design. So after our image, we need to add a little bit of space. So let's utilize our height spacer. Let's give it a size of 20. We need to add some text. So we are going to use our reusable text widget. And our text here is going to be welcome. Let's give it a style. We are going to utilize app style. Let's give it a size 30. And let's give it a color. And let's give it a font weight. It's going to be W600. Let's change the background color to K-Light Blue. After our reusable text widget, we need to add a little bit of height. So let's just copy from here, and our height is going to be 15. And we need a padding. Padding returns padding. And our padding is going to be edge_inset.symmetrical. And we are going to manipulate the horizontal side. and we should give it a padding of 30, and we have to utilize our screen utils. So let's add .w here, since we are going to manipulate the horizontal side of it. That's the left and the right. So in here, let's use our child property. In our child property, we are going to have a text widget. Let's give it a style. We're going to utilize app style, and the size is going to be 14. Color is going to be K-Light, and our font weight is going to be normal. Let's align our text. So here our text has to be on the center. So we use text align.center. So let's write our string here. After our padding, let's add a little bit of height. So our height is going to be 20. Let's have a row widget. We need to have two buttons side by side. So we are going to utilize a row. Our row text children. So first we need to design our custom button. So let's go to our custom outline button. So our custom outline button requires a few parameters. So the first one is going to be width, and our width is a double and it's nullable. And we're going to have our height. We also need text. So we need final string with the name text. And we need to click on our button. So for that to happen, we need to have an onTap function. Let's give it a name. And we need to have colors, one for the text and one for the border. We are going to have two colors. So the first one is going to be color. And let's give the other one the name color too. Let's add our final fields here. So our button is going to return a gesture detector. So let's repeat in a gesture detector here. Our gesture detector requires an onTap function, and we are going to utilize the onTap that we created on top. And in our container, we need to have the width, and our width is going to be width. And we need height, and our height is going to be height. We also need decoration. Let's utilize the box decoration here. In our box decoration, we need to set the color of the button. So for our color is going to be color 2, and we need a border. It's going to be border.all, and we need to give it a width, and our width is going to be 1. And we need to give it a color, and our color is going to be color. So this color is this color here on top. This color 2 is this color here. So our container has a child property, and this child we are going to utilize a center. And in our center, we are going to have another child, and this child has to be a reusable widget. And our text here is going to be text that we declared on top. And let's add style to our text. So we are going to utilize our app style. We give it a size of 16. And color is going to be color. And the font weight is going to be W600. So we are done creating our custom outline button. So in our page 3, we are going to have our onTap function. For now, we're going to leave it as an empty function. And we need to have our text. So this button is a login button. So our text is a string. We need to have width, and our width is going to be width times 0.4, and we need height times 0.06. That's our height. We also need color, and our color is going to be K-Light. Let's go back to our button. So our button is here. We just need to go to, we are not going to utilize color 2, so we have to make it now, and we need to remove the required from color 2. Let's go back. Another widget in our children so that there can be two widgets side to side here. Our next widget is going to be a sign up widget. So let's have a gesture detector first. Let's go on tab. Let's give it a now to begin with. Let's have a child, and our child is going to be a container, and our container has the same height and width as the login button. So we are going to copy from here. Let's just paste it down here. And we need to have color, and our color is going to be K-Light. We need to have space between our widget. So here we need to utilize the main axis alignment, not space between. Let's use space around. So we need to add a text to our button. So here we're going to have a reusable text widget. And our app style, we're going to give it a size of 16. Here our color is going to be light blue. And our font weight is going to be W600. So our text is here on top. We need to get it to the center of our widget. So let's wrap our reusable widget in a center widget. So our text is now on the center. So we are done with our buttons. We'll add functionalities later. So after our row widget, we need to add a little bit of space. So let's utilize our height spacer. Let's give it a size of 30. Here, we want to use the reusable text widget. Let's provide our string. Here, we are going to say continuous guest. Let's utilize our app style. Let's give it a size of 16. Okay, so we have done creating our page view. So here, what we need to do in our page view, if a person reaches the third page, which is our last page, then we should set it in a way that they won't be able to go back to the last page. So if they reach the page 3, this is the only page they will see. They won't be able to go back. So let's set it up. But before we do that, let's add const here. Let's go back to our page view. So to achieve the kind of functionality whereby if we reach a certain index, let's say index 2, and then we won't be able to go back to index 1, we need to use our controllers. So we are going to wrap this text widget in a provider. So let's cut the code from here. Let's cut the body. Let's utilize the consumer widget. So we are going to consume onboard notifier object. And let's give a corresponding name down here. And this has to be a small letter. And let's import our provider package. So down here, let's paste the code that we just cut. So let's visit our onboard notifier and see what it looks like. So now let's look at our onboard notifier. Our onboard notifier extends a change notifier, meaning that it notifies every dependence that depends on this onboard notifier. For instance, here our onboarding screen is dependent on our onboard notifier provider. So in our onboard notifier, we have one variable, a boolean, and initially is set to false. And we have a getter to get this private variable from our provider. And we have our setter with the name is last. And this setter sets this private variable to the new state and then notify our dependencies of the state change. Let's go to our onboarding screen. Let's remove the physics first. So on our physics, if you are scrolling and we reach to the last page, which is index 2, our onboard notifier consumer is notified that, okay, we've reached the index 2, changes are triggered on our onboard notifier provider, and then the notifyListener, this notifyListener is going to inform the widget that is consuming this object that, okay, we are on the last page, and then we are going to have some state changes in our application. So for example, here, we're going to use the physics. So let's utilize our onboard notifier. So if it is last, so here we need to utilize never scrollable scroll physics. Or else, if it is not the last index, our physics is going to be always crawlable. So we need to trigger the changes. So our page view comes with on page change, and on page change, okay, let's give it a value page. On page change, if our index is on the last index, so we need to notify our provider. So this is the index of our last page, which is page 2. If it is on page 2, then this boolean is set to true. And we also need to utilize a controller. Okay, let's call it page controller. So let's create this controller on top. First, let's convert this stateless widget to a stateful widget. And down here, we need to have final page controller. And let's give it a name, page controller. It's going to be page controller here. So our error is gone. And we need to also dispose our controller if you are done using it. Here, we need to call dispose. And we are going to dispose our page controller. Our app is working fine. So we reached the last page. We are now not able to go back to the previous page. So let's reset and try to see the changes again. Okay, so we are on the first index, index 0, index 1. We reach index 2. And then this on page function is triggered and its last is set to true. And then our consumer here is notified by our notify listener.